Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Franchise Show. I hope you're all doing well. This is the show where we get under the hat of some of the most important topics in franchising. And what is the Franchise Show? It's a weekly live show. Well, it's live if it's the 14th of January, 5:15 GMT or 12:15 EST for about 45 minutes. So if you are here live, please get involved, put a comment up, say hello, because these conversations are for you and they are directed by you, produced by you. And the direction that our conversation takes is dependent often on our wonderful community. So as I say, if you are here, please say hello and we will get to your questions as today's discussion unfolds. So each week we take a new topic and we have a lovely guest. And today we have a lovely returning guest to the Franchise Show. We have the wonderful Brittany Satterfield. Brittany, welcome back to the Franchise Show.
Thanks so much. Happy to be here.
You're welcome. And today the topic we are going to be discussing is how to win in franchising. And it's a broad topic, obviously, but that's, I think, what we all want in franchising. You know, there are many people involved in the industry and in the agreement. You've got the franchisor, you've got the franchisee, and you've got the wonderful people that are using the service created by that partnership. And how do people win? What are those wins? And that's hopefully what we're going to be talking about today. Before we get into today's subject, Brittany, for the people that don't know you, perhaps you could introduce yourself to our wonderful community.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me again. It's always great to be back and, always have a great conversation with you, Harvey, and our friends here listening. So I'm really looking forward to it today. For those who don't know me, my name is Brittany Satterfield. I am the founder and managing director at Impact Digital Marketing. We're a full-service digital marketing agency that loves to help franchises and franchisees with their national and local marketing. So been around franchising for many years now, and the moment we started with our first franchise, I've really grown in the love for it, and mostly because there's so many different complexities to franchise models, and it's a lot of fun. So I'm really, really excited to be here today and getting to know you guys.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Let's have a look. We've got a few people who have joined us early on today. We're going to start off with the wonderful Penny Hopkinson. Penny is a supporter of the show. I'm going to try and get to your book, as you can see, Penny. And is your book going to be the right way round today? No, it's not. There it is. Penny has written a wonderful book called Manual Magic. It's all about your franchise ops manuals. So please check that out. There will be a QR code spinning up at some point during the show that will direct you to Penny and to her website. In fact, look, it's going to come up right now because I can do that. It's clever, isn't it? Fantastic to have you here, Penny. And Penny has put hello, Harvey and Brittany, and all franchise friends on this interesting topic. Well, it is an interesting topic about how we can win, what those wins are. Let's have a look at who else we've got. We've got the ever wise Simon Wise, a regular contributor and supporter of the Franchise Show, and it's always fantastic to have you with us, Simon. And Simon has put hello, franchise friends. Well, hello to you as well, Simon. Really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on what constitutes a win in franchising, and how, as franchisors and franchisees, we can make those wins happen. Let's have a look who else we've got here. We've got Katrina Newman. Katrina, it's always lovely to have you with us. Katrina has put hello, Harvey and Brittany. I was not here last time you were, so looking forward to what you are hearing you today. Well, it's going to be great to have you with us, and we are looking forward. She just put sorry for the typo. Sorry for me reading the typo. I knew what you meant. Anyway, that's the important thing. It's great to have you with us this time. And Katrina, put in your thoughts as to what constitutes a win, and the challenges that we have to face to get to those wins. So, Brittany, let's start with that. What do we constitute as a win? Now, I know you're a specialist in marketing, and obviously we're going to get into how marketing can help you win. But we've got franchisors and we've got franchisees. And we've got those end users. Can we look at those together? Do we need to look at those separately? And what do you think constitutes a win?
Yeah, and when we came up with this topic, Harvey, I was like, wow, this is such a broad topic, right? Like there's so much that you can really dive into, like what is winning with franchising? And I always think like there's many different ways you can win, and what is winning to most people, right? But it really, I like to think about it as like, where are you as a franchise? If you were one of those emerging brands, winning might be getting started, getting your foundations in order, getting those systems in place. Not even just from a marketing level. And I will say, yes, although I'm coming from a marketing background here, we do work with a lot of franchisors, franchisees on a strategic level as well. So we do come in as the CMO. So it's not just today, I'm not just going to be talking about marketing. So I will just say, like, if you have questions, things like that, I'm obviously happy to answer questions on that end. So when we are thinking about winning, I'm going to go back to this. It can come down to where are you as a franchise and where do you want to go? Because when you first start out, you're getting your first few locations, winning may not become a nationally known brand right away. It might be getting a few more locations in order, getting those foundations in place. But for more of the larger franchises, you already have a good foundation of locations. It's about empowering those franchisees to do well, to be successful, to create brand advocates, and to empower them to talk highly of you and your franchise and the brand, and then also to really build your customer base and to make them really happy and loyal customers. So there's a lot of different goals that go around, but every franchise should not have its own goals because everyone's at different parts of their journey. So yeah, I know that we're kind of talking high level right now, but I'd love to dive into the details.
No, I love that. And I think that's really interesting when you're talking from the perspective of a franchisor to really work out where you're at. And therefore, because let's take franchisors for a moment, and like you very wisely said, that if you're an emerging franchisor, the wins are going to be very different to if you're an established franchisor. So, right. Wins don't just mean financial. That's for certain. They're much more complex than that. Winning, for a franchisee might be achieving a work-life balance that you want. Spending more time doing other things, as well as working hard on your franchise business. So yeah, I love that. I love the fact that a win could be getting an advocate in your business. Franchisee validation. That's incredibly important in any franchise business, because right. if it's not working for your franchisees, then it's not working, because your franchisees and your customers as a franchisor, they're your business. They're what's important. You're successful if they're successful. So yeah, love that. Let's have a quick look. We've got a couple of other people joined us, and we've got a question coming up as well from Simon. Let's have a look. We've got the wonderful Jason Kaber with us from SeoSamba. Jason, fantastic to have you with us. Let's put your comments up.
Hi, Jason.
I know you know Jason very well. So Jason's put, hello, Harvey and Brittany. Well, hello to you too, Jason. Hopefully I'm going to catch up with Jason very soon on a meeting. But it's great to have you with us. And of course, SeoSamba do the list of franchise global influencers. And that is currently being looked at by the adjudicators. And we're going to see who the wonderful people across the globe that are influencing our wonderful industry are. So do keep an eye out on social media for that list to be revealed. I'm sure Jason will give us some exclusives as to when that list is going to come out. Looking forward to that, of course. Let's put up here a question or a comment here from Simon, because it's a good one, and let's get into it. So Simon's put, for me, the mark of winning is when a franchisee successfully exits from the business with a great return on their initial investment.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you make of this one? I think that is a win.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you can come in and out with what they came there for, that is a success. However, you do still want to continue to build on that. So not even just of leaving, but hopefully growing too. So I definitely agree. When the franchisees are happy, your business is healthy and it can continue to grow, and you likely have a good relationship with your franchisees at that point. So 100%, Simon.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because, again, Simon's put here about the win being successfully exiting. And one thing that you very wisely said was you've got to work out what it is you want and where you're going. Now,
Mm-hmm.
that's the same for a franchisor as for a franchisee. You know, any franchise business, when they're talking to their franchisees, you want to understand what their short, medium, and long-term plans are, even if they change, you know.
Right.
And if that long-term plan is an exit strategy, then you want to help them achieve it, because that's the win for them, isn't it? Love
Yep,
it.
exactly. Exactly.
Love it. Well, look, we've even got your QR code up at the moment, Brittany. Look at that. Let's have a look. We've got another. We've got somebody else joining us here. Hi from the Netherlands. Let us know who you are from the Netherlands. I know a few people from the Netherlands, but great to have you with us. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on what constitutes a win, and how we go about achieving that win and what challenges we might face along the way. Brittany, what do you think? Let's move on to sort of challenges, and let's
Yep.
talk from the perspective of a franchisor and a franchisee. But let's take a franchisor first. What do you think the challenges are, that prevent someone from winning?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's many, unfortunately. So
Really?
I'll start with some of the perspectives from a marketing side, just because they are pretty fresh. Some of the challenges that I see, really, it comes down to the franchisees getting really excited, being possibly a first-time entrepreneur and ready to jump all in. Um, Sometimes they don't have the marketing knowledge or the business ownership operational side to be able to properly run and operate their business. Even with training and support of the franchisor, sometimes they like to do things their way or not necessarily always follow the rules and what they've agreed in their contract to follow. I've seen some franchisees where, they're supposed to follow a campaign, roll it out, and they're just not spending their minimum local marketing spend. And months will go by, and they're like, "Hey, what's going on? Why is my business slowing down?" I'm like, "Okay, let's do an audit. Let's take a look." And they're not doing any of the local marketing campaigns that were introduced to them. So that's like small little things that can fall through the cracks to make them unsuccessful, leading to confusion and loss of communication. So when you do work with your franchisees, it's really, really important to be very upfront with communication, set expectations, and continuously do your audits on what they're doing, what they're following up in. It's always, like, I don't want to say it's too late, but it's a bummer sometimes when a franchisor will do a surprise visit and find out that, oh, they're not even wearing the uniforms that we provided. They're not even putting up the window clings and the decals that we sent them. And then it's the little things that add up that kind of turns them astray. And unfortunately, that leads to customers seeing that, and it turns that into like not memorable brand and an experience that they necessarily would rather have something more consistent. And certainly the franchisees, whether they're able to be that team player and work with the franchise to follow through on things is really, really important. But that one's a more challenge that, I see quite often, especially in the marketing areas, because people are excited and they want to jump in with their marketing, but they're not always able to follow through because they're juggling a lot of different things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've hit upon some really, really valid points there. Being that challenge, franchising is a really unique thing because we are attracting entrepreneurs that need to follow a system. And that there's a sort of a disconnect between normally entrepreneurs like to do what they want to do. So it is always a challenge to find somebody who is entrepreneurial, but also wants to follow, that can follow a set of rules.
Right.
Because that's what you're buying. We're talking today about winning. And when you're buying into a franchise, you're buying a proven model. And what is a proven model? It's something that you've got to follow for it to be that same model. If you don't follow it, then you might as well have done it on your own and not paid a franchise fee and not get involved in a franchise.
Exactly.
And I love what you said about that sort of communication, those expectations, set those out clearly at the beginning so that a franchisee knows the route they've got to take to be successful and knows why.
Yeah, and when you have to communicate and when you kind of have to do some cleanup and get them back on track, it's really important to share success stories and share like, hey, Bob over at this location is doing really well. Like let's share some examples and case studies on why this is working really well, and kind of get their buy-in back in. So it's much easier to set a strong culture at the beginning. However, everything can be fixed. Most things can be fixed, I should say, in terms of getting back into your brand and localized marketing that works. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was also really relevant what you said there about local marketing and whether franchisees are doing this and whether they're doing it correctly. I know yourself, I know SeoSamba, you're all about making sure that message is delivered correctly throughout the network. And it's really important, even if that local marketing is just a poster for a seasonal campaign of food or drink, right? And let's say there's 4 seasonal campaigns. You're paying 1, 2, whatever the percentage or a set fee for marketing. And that marketing is delivered. And if you don't use it and use it well, it's going to be one of the challenges, one of the barriers to winning if you don't follow what's been given to you.
Exactly. And sometimes for the franchisees that really, they know they have to spend a certain amount of money on their local marketing. Another challenge is they don't even know where to spend it. They just assume that it's X, Y, and Z. They'll sponsor somebody's little league team. They'll put it towards that or do a big campaign at the end just to say they spent money. But in fact, like your localized marketing campaign should be very focused on getting you more business and retaining those customers. And the franchisor, everybody's different, but they should help them, align them, and provide the right resources to be able to succeed, right? And it's not necessarily them doing the work for them, not necessarily posting on social media for them. That's great if they do that. However, but maybe giving them some training, some guidelines, even aligning the right vendors in place, saying, hey, we really trust these 3 vendors for social media. Hire one of them, and it's a discounted rate because we know that they're going to work with all of our franchisees. So it's pre-negotiated. They know your brand. And that works really well, especially for like the middle of the road franchisors that want to empower their franchisees to do well, but necessarily they don't want to hold their hand all the way through, because it could take a lot of work to make sure that a franchisee is entirely knowledgeable about a marketing subject, because there's always something new to learn, always something to stay on top of. and it's just going to be very time consuming for the franchisor. But giving them options, because a lot of the times they're very tech savvy and they can figure out themselves, right? So
yeah, of course, yeah. I like what you said there about empowering a franchisee. I think that especially when you're dealing with entrepreneurs, making sure they know they're empowered, or they're at least valued, or their opinion is valued, or how they can perhaps tweak that, but within brand standards, within the guidelines, within the systems and the proven model, but at least be heard and be listened to. I think that's really important. And training as well. I think you've got to, as a franchisor, you deliver something, and then you've got to continually support whatever it is that you're delivering, so that people, your franchisees, continue to get and give that consistency, because it's easy for that to slip away if you don't, isn't it?
Very, very easy. I've started working with a couple franchises and came in, and some locations use a slightly different version of logos or added different products to the menu. And so that's just, overall consistency is great. And, it's our job as their leadership, and to be able to help guide them, is to do that for them, for the other franchisees, to help them. So it's not to be dictators and to punish them. It's to, hey, this is why it's so important, and we want to help you because we've tested and tried all these things. We don't want to do this because, and really empowering them that way. So getting them to understand, sometimes it takes a little extra work, but it helps in the long run for a lot of things. Not even just marketing, but operations too, as you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, it does. And I've seen many examples of, like, when you said there about sort of going in, there's different products and there's different marketing and there's different branding, because you've got to continuously deliver that message for that to work. And having a win in franchising has to rely on a proven model, because that's what franchising is based on. And because it's relying on a proven model, you've got to stick with it. And if as a franchisee you're frustrated because you think an element of the model isn't working, right? Then there's a communication. There's got to be a communication path to express that concern, and there's got to be a communication path back to make sure that franchisee knows they've been heard, and they know either something's going to be done about it, or why something can't be done about it. And I think there's got to be advocacy within the network between franchisees as well, because you can then have, if you've got one franchisee that's got a concern, then they can at least talk to other franchisees to see whether that concern just is unique to them, or if it sits across the network.
Yeah, absolutely. And now the franchisees, sometimes when they see that there are challenges, they certainly, if you don't address their concerns, it will spread like wildfire. They will start talking to other franchisees, and it will become an issue with the culture. There will be a lack of trust with the team. So it is really important to address their concerns and hear them out, because they are boots on the ground. They're seeing the experience and what's working, what's not. I do like to do regular surveys, and if you have a large amount of locations, it's important to get feedback any way you can. So doing that consistently to see what's working, what's not, how we can improve. And sometimes when franchisees say, hey, this isn't working, let's dive into the data and actually see, is it really not working, or it is, and they just need to understand how it works. There are some parts of marketing that don't have a direct relation. Say, for an example, this happens sometimes with franchisees when they have a direct payment towards something long-term strategy, say SEO, so search engine optimization to help your website rank on Google. Say they're paying towards that, and they reach out a month later, hey, I'm not seeing any return. Like, that's a valid, concern, right? To think like, well, I should have got a return on investment right away. but that does take time to get results. And there's bigger things that you put into SEO, from like domain rankings and backlinks and on-site optimizations, that don't show right away. And it just requires a little bit of education to see the full strategy. So it's certainly communication's key, and working together, not against each other.
Definitely. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, you said a few things there that I think are really relevant in this conversation. I think that because we're talking about how to win, but we're also talking about the challenges and the barriers that get in the way to stop those wins. And that communication thing, if you don't listen to a franchisee, if you don't address their concerns, at least to explain to them why or what the timescale might be, or how you're going to approach this, then, like you say, that negativity can spread. It can spread to, because if they're not hearing anything back from you as a franchisor, they talk to other franchisees and say, have you got the same problem here? It's frustrating, and then suddenly you've got an epidemic within your franchisees, where if you dealt with that at the single franchisee level and dealt with that concern, and then you can positively put it out to the network then, of course, because you can say, well, look, we found this as a concern in the system, we've changed this is the reasons. Put it out to the other franchisees. They get a problem solved before they knew it was a problem in some cases. So I think I think that's really important. I think another thing that you said there is about doing surveys and about understanding what your network, what challenges exist within your network, because you can't understand what the problem is before you know what it is. So you've got to ask people. And this is a good time to say that we have a survey here. If you scan the QR code top left, that takes you to a little survey about the franchise show. You can suggest topics, and you can let us know what you think about this show. And that's brought to you by our wonderful sponsor, Gather. And their QR code is there, and that's exactly what they do. So reach out to them if you want to ask your network or your customers some vital questions. It's a great way of doing it. And another thing, you said some great things. There's always so much value when we have our discussions, Brittany, but that return on investment, whether that's SEO or whether that's I've invested this much in the marketing part of it. I'm not talking about the return on investment for the whole franchise opportunity at this point, but the returns on bits of it, that marketing effort. If you don't communicate things properly, and if franchisees don't follow it, or if franchisees don't follow up, then it can feel like something hasn't worked if you don't set those expectations correctly.
Yeah.
Let's have a look. We've got another comment coming up here from Simon. Let's have a look at that. Simon's put, if you are winning, you need to communicate it to attract new franchisees. What is the best way to do that? Well, that's a great question. Yeah. How would you approach that one? How do you market or communicate a great win to potential franchisees? Love that question. Thanks.
Yeah, Simon. Yeah, absolutely. This is a great question. So there's a lot of different ways that you can promote yourself to help attract more franchisees, especially when you are doing so well. So a lot of franchises will get these great awards, be able to grow out and expand in territories. There's a balance of being, hey, we're the best, follow us, being too much, and kind of making it a little more subtle, we're just excited, we're growing, and kind of being a little bit more modest about it, so that you're creating the right vibe with when franchisees are being attracted and interested in you. So obviously with different awards, those are great. I would work on a portfolio of those. So as you're going ahead and trying to share those wins, go for those awards, but don't make it the big front and center trophy case. Showcase that on your franchise page. As you have more franchises, as they sign up, as they do grand openings, make that part of your email blast. So say, hey, we just opened up our 500th location, and now we need to make it really exciting. Maybe we'll do a video splash about it, put it on our Instagram, and congratulate the new owners. So making it more about the team, the overall exciting part of things, and just sharing those success stories through stories. So video obviously does a great job with that, interviewing, talking to the franchisees, having them speak on behalf, not so much the franchise or the brand speaking on it. So when you can have people inside experiencing themselves talk about it, it's really much more powerful than a brand saying those things.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. No, sorry, go on. Sorry, I was didn't mean to interrupt there. Yeah.
No, I was. But you can certainly promote all those aspects. But you want to make sure that you're communicating that story, because when you are going into buying a franchise, it is a financial decision, but it often leads down to an emotional one, where it can be gut feeling at the end, and whether I trust them and I can see myself in this position. So it is important to not just go after number stats and whatnot, but creating more of a story. And I see Simon commenting again more about
exactly. I put this question up, comment from Simon, because it's really relevant about what you were just talking about. And of course, our sister show, Franchising Brand Stories, is all about telling those stories. Mostly from a franchisor perspective. Perhaps we're bringing that franchisee perspective. I think is very, very important to do that, actually. But you just started to talk there about how important stories and non-financial elements are, and doing that via video and via things like live shows. How important do you think that is for giving that story to that prospective franchisee and helping them to make a wise decision?
Yeah, absolutely. I always say with franchise sales, when we're doing our advertising, our bottom of the funnel, when people are ready to sign on the line, we're doing all storytelling with our ads. They're not seeing these crazy stats. I mean, they already know this information. They already can dive in and find things. But when they can feel the story, they can see people just like them having similar aspirations, maybe similar lifestyles, wanting to get home by dinner time to see their family. They don't want to be at a restaurant till midnight every night. That is really attractive to a lot of people. I mean, every franchise has its own unique, whether it's work-life balance, financial return, the industry itself. But when you focus in on those stories of what is it like before, what is it after, would you do anything different? What would you say to someone considering investing into this franchise? It really kind of takes down their guard a little bit and kind of puts them in the shoes and envisions that. So, it towers the awards, honestly. It's so impactful. Testimonials, I would get those 100% on video. I know not everyone has the means to go out and to get videos for every single franchisee, successful one or just starting, but it's great to get it captured and to utilize that in your marketing, because it frankly works. So.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I love the idea of trying to get those videos, getting franchisees involved, and making sure that story is put out there from the franchisee and from the franchisor, because it's like you say, at that bottom of the funnel, at those latter stages, especially in the US, because you're heavily regulated. You've got your franchise disclosure documents, you've got your item 19. Is it item 19 or article 19? Anyway, the financial bit. Right. So you've got all these numbers, you've got your lawyers and things that have looked all through the scope of the opportunity and the financials. Then what have you got left? You've got much stuff that's more from the gut, from the heart. Do you align? Are these the right type of people that you want to work with, and the right values? You mentioned the word culture a couple of times, and how do you, as a prospective franchisee, find out what that culture is like before you make the decision. And like you say, videos, live shows, meeting franchisees, meeting the team you're going to be working with. That's all
Right.
get that that across to that potential franchisee, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, and hopefully Discovery Day kind of helps gets them to understand that, and they'll be able to talk to the employees themselves and experience the products or service themselves. But yeah, I mean, it's a whole suite of things that you can kind of build up into that. And it's not even just the storytelling of the franchisees, but it comes back to the franchisor. How are they following through with things? What's their leadership style? What's their aspirations and the growth of the company too? So really pinpointing their story as well is really important.
Yeah, telling stories, it's really, it's a very powerful way to get the culture and the values of a company across. I think an important thing is to make sure that there's consistency and transparency, and that the story you are telling is the story that is real as well. I think that's very important, that if you're telling a story, if you're building that picture, that you're building a realistic picture, because it's easy to get over enthusiastic about the positive elements of your business. But I think it's very important, you mentioned before about setting expectations and making sure those expectations are correct. And I don't think there's anything wrong with telling people the positives and the negatives when they're starting. A lot of people in sales don't like talking about a negative, okay, or a challenge, or something that's going to be difficult. But it's very important. It's very important for someone to understand that it's going to be hard work, and that it's going to be challenging, and there'll be good days and there'll be bad days. And I think that's key to that message you deliver in that story, that yes, you're there to support. I often talk about franchising, that to take it back to being something like a carpenter or a builder, and you are given a box of tools, right? And you're given the training on how to use those tools. But if you picked up a hammer and used the wrong end to try and bang in some nails, it would be a terrible tool, even though it's the perfect tool for the job. So you've got to definitely listen to your franchisor, and the franchisor's got to listen to the franchisee. I think it's really important. I wrote down something, and it was actually I think it was John Hewitt of Jackson Hewitt that said this to me, and he was a former guest on the show, and he said his aim was to have happy, successful franchisees. Right now, that's a win if you can achieve that.
100%, yeah.
It's tough to achieve, and I think there's some complexities in both those words. And I had a lovely lady called Jen on, who's a specialist in mental health within franchising. Fascinating subject, vitally important. And we talked about happiness, and actually, it's not necessarily happiness. I say happy, successful, but it's getting a franchisee into a position where they can deal with the ups and downs of business, which aren't always happiness, of course. But if you can be resilient, and if you can get yourself into a position where you can enjoy those ups and those downs throughout the journey, then I think you're going to be in a very good place. What do you make of a win being a happy, successful franchisee? What do you make of those two words?
Oh my gosh. I mean, that would certainly make things very easy and joyful, right? When it's kind of like your children. When your children are like happy after a nice big Christmas, and you're like, wow, that's a lot of work, a lot of money I put into that. And when they're happy and they're like, thank you, Mom, it's like, it makes it feel like that was worth it. Like I feel like I have a new wind. I'm ready to go. Let's grow this franchise. I want more of that feeling. when your franchisees can be happy and successful, it's like, you're doing something right, and you just you feel that fire. So, it's a great feeling to have. So, 100%, if you have happy and successful franchisees, you're doing your job, and you should continue.
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
100%. And it's a good mantra for a franchisor to have, at least as the aim or the goal, to have that. Because when you want to start building your business, if that is a win for you as a franchisor, that you are going to expand your business, it has to be your mantra, because as a franchise business, it's not going to expand unless your franchisees are, say, content, at least, and
Right.
happy some of the time, resilient, definitely, and successful. That isn't just financial. We've talked about success or wins being non-financial, being that work-life balance. It might be a certain level of financial success, but we've got to look at their why. Why did they get into to be a franchisee at the beginning? It's the very first question I always ask anybody: is what's made you come to this decision? What's made you interested in doing this? Because their why is all powerful. If someone's why is, I've had enough of the corporate world, I want to spend more time with my family, I don't want to end up working at 11 o'clock at night and miss my children growing up, then that win is achieving that work-life balance, isn't it?
Yeah, and hopefully make some money, along the way, right? I mean, it's
of course,
another goal. You gotta
exactly. I mean, people are in business for that reason, to make some money, of course. So that has to be there. And different people have different financial goals as well. And those wins can be achieved for different people in different ways. I think it's a very complex subject, but it's a fascinating one to get into, because as an industry, we want success and we want positivity, but we want that to be achieved with transparency, and we want that to be achieved with good communication.
Right.
And with transparency comes the ups and the downs, the good and the bad, the easy and the tough. And perhaps that needs to be talked about perhaps a little bit more, so that those wins are planned out a little bit more, and people are set up for that. If you only talk about good stuff and then they experience some of the more challenging things, that can make it a tougher journey, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where the communication comes in is, hey, this is our slow season. We're a seasonal business. This is what we do during the slow times. And they can plan for it. And if they know it's coming, they can plan in their high seasons for the good. So that's why it's so important, is to really be upfront with your communication, set expectations, and work as a team. It's not, there's not a big line between you. Of course, sometimes there has to be a small one where you have to make decisions, but essentially you need to be a team and to work together and learn from each other. And sometimes franchisees can come in and have great solutions for a problem that's been a franchise known issue. So that's another way you can start to help each other too.
Definitely. You're right. The solution to a problem, when you've got a network, I mean, in the US, you've got hundreds, sometimes thousands of franchisees. In the UK, in smaller franchise regions, that number might be, tens or maybe a few hundred. But even so, even if you've got 5 or 10 franchisees, that's 5 times the number of eyes and ears looking at creative ways to solve a challenge, from a network of people that are deeply involved in the same business that you are, and have the same challenges and the same goals, because their goal of making it successful equals your success as a franchisor. So love
I
it.
agree with you.
Well,
Yeah.
we've got to a new point of the show today. Okay, so we have a lovely conversation all about franchising, but we have these lovely guests, and it's always nice to hear a little bit about them. And this particular part of the show is sponsored by my new lovely friend, Paul Murphy. And he's from PJ Murphy Bespoke British Hatters. Now, I'm going to turn my camera off for a moment, okay? Because no one ever sees me without the hat or a hat. Now, I'm going to put that back on. Let's see if this is okay on the top of my head. There we go. Lovely new hat for this section of the show. And this hat was supplied by PJ Murphy. Please scan the QR code on the right to find out all about those hats. Now, this part of the show is a fun part of the show. So we're going to stop talking about franchising for a little bit. And this is a chance where I'm going to ask my guest a few questions about them. And my guest gets one question to ask me. The tide and the tables are turned. So first of all, let me ask a little bit about you, Brittany.
Sure.
I always like to ask things like, I don't know, maybe a claim to fame, or what hobbies you've got, or you're passionate about outside of marketing and franchising. Have you ever met anyone famous? Let's go for that one.
Yeah, I work with a couple clients that, are very well known, have well-established careers, celebrities. So certainly, yes. I am not one of a celebrity, but of course, I get my 45 minutes of fame with you, Harvey. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, no.
Doing outside of your marketing and your work, what sort of things do you find you doing?
Marketing is my baby. The impact is my company, so that's where it gets my attention through the day. But after work, I have two young babies at home and a husband. They're one that's in preschool and another one that's just turned 1. So busy with family, and besides that, when I do get the rare chance to myself, I like to go out and compete and play volleyball. Played in college, and as well as some people on my company's team. So we're just like competitive in nature and like to have fun, stay active, go on hikes. And
love it. Wow, running your own business, 2 children of that age, and playing those sports. You're certainly a busy lady, Brittany.
Oh, it's fun. I love it.
And look, here we go. It's now a chance where you can ask me any question you fancy. Okay, so normally I get to ask the questions.
Okay.
But I'm going to get to answer one or two.
Okay. So I have a few, but is it more on the franchise side, or we're staying all personal now?
You can ask me any question you like, just one though.
Okay. Well, I know I can't ask you to take off your hat. That would be a fun one, but
no, that one, alas, can't do that.
Where did your original hat come from, and how did it get its fame? I want to know that.
That's really interesting, because that was exactly the question that was asked last week. But it's any
question.
No. I can answer it again anyway. So the original hat came from a lovely chap called Don Cohen, and Don Cohen ran a LinkedIn live show called Hour of Empower. And he asked me to be a guest. And I was a guest 2 or 3 times. Very similar format, very much audience first was his mantra. Lovely, kind chap, and brilliant at LinkedIn Live. And on the 2nd or 3rd time I appeared on that show, he wore a hat, I will tell you. And I thought to myself, I should probably get a hat. So that's just what I did. I went out, I bought a hat. Someone said to mention something about Indiana Jones, which was enough to make me wear that hat again. And then I appeared at various events wearing it, including a black tie dinner once, I believe. And now it's become an accidental stroke of marketing genius. And I can never not wear a hat now, can I? There you go. Excellent. Brilliant. Well, look, we are now coming to the end of today's episode. I'd like to thank everyone who has joined us here live today. I'd like to thank everyone who will be watching this in the future as well. It's always great to have you here. You are what makes this show special. So thank you so much for spending your time with us tonight. And I'd like to thank you, Brittany, for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you as ever. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. And you guys have been great. Thanks for being here.
No problem. Let's just have a quick look at what's going on this week on Franchising Brand Stories. So this week on Franchising Brand Stories, we are going to be talking to Helen Venables and Emma Higgins from House of Colour. So we're going to be finding out all about that franchise and probably doing a little bit of colour analysis on me during the time, I expect. So I'm going to look forward to that. And next week on the franchise show, we are talking franchise apprentices and how young people in franchising are vitally important. So it's going to be called The Franchise Apprentice. And I have Gregory Ebbs joining us as a guest. Now, Gregory was a former contestant of the BBC show The Apprentice. So he has met Lord Sugar. It's going to be a fascinating conversation about young people in business. And I'm sure we're going to be asking him a few questions about that particular show as well. So join us this Thursday for Franchising Brand Stories, 5:15 GMT, 12:15 EST. And next Thursday, the 21st, for the franchise show, The Franchise Apprentice. And that will also be at 5:15 GMT, 12:15 EST. So until next time, my friends, have a fantastic week ahead and cheerio.